Welcome to the Elegance of Nae. I'm your host, Nae, and on this podcast, we'll be talking about a variety of topics with amazing stories. Let's get into it, shall we? What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Elegance of Nae podcast. I'm your host, Nae, and we got somebody new in the building. Who we got? Mr. Leon in the building. What's to
up,
do?
y'all? What's up? Glad to be here. Appreciate you, Nae, for bringing me through.
For sure.
Ready.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm blessed, man. I'm glad I was able to get here safely. I know the storms and everything was kind of wild. So
Yeah.
I feel like I was in a movie theater, but we're here now. We're here, so we're good.
Right. How are you mentally and physically today?
I'm good. Mine is clear for sure. Again, blessed to be able to wake up every day this week in my right mind, and physically, I'm good. I'm good.
That's what's up. So, how were you growing up? Like, how were you as a kid? Where did you grow up?
So me, I grew up on the east side of Detroit. Shout out East Side, man. Normally I don't do that, but gotta shout out the East Side.
But it's all love, though. It's all love.
For sure. But I grew up 2-parent home, mom, dad. I would always say that we weren't the wealthiest family, but we went on trips, we did things. But the things I always appreciate about my parents is that we had structure and stability. And a lot of people can't say that, and there's no knock to them. But yeah, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have always had the finest things, but we had love, we had structure, and that ultimately made me the man I am today. So I got an older brother named Chris. We had a great childhood, man. Like summers like this, if it wasn't raining, we would all gather our neighbors up or our friends from school, and we'll go ride into Grosse Pointe, play basketball, put like $5 towards like a small pizza or this place called Burger Point we used to go to. So, dope childhood. I always say, man, like I love my childhood. I was actually at the crib going through some pictures this week, just seeing like all the different things that we did, whether it was me and my brother, my parents, us as a family, my cousins. It was just dope, man. Like to just be around so much love and people that's, even to this day, like still close to you, still call you and everything. So I had a dope childhood, man. I had all the action figures I wanted. Went to all the different places. We went to LA, we went to Florida, we went to different places, man. So definitely love my childhood. Like even though we lived in what's considered the hood, the city, like we were always protected. And that's what I always remember. Like even though I come from the city, it was like from my house all the way down to the last house on our block, it was always love. So,
that's what's up.
Sure.
So growing up, like pretty much besides all the love, like how were you in school? Like when you first started in school and everything?
Man, so when I first started in school, I was that guy. Not as far as like popularity necessarily, but like my grades was fire, A's and B's. I was really good at English and science, and I was good at math for a while until I got older. But like when I first started off in school, it was good. Like I was able to gravitate to a lot of kids. Like it was easy for me to make friends because I was like super silly and like I always been a people person. Like my aunt, she called me the social butterfly.
I was just about to say
that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So school was cool at first, growing up. I went to a school called Detroit Merit at first. And before that, I went to a school that my aunt taught at called Howe. But I was like really young. I was probably like in kindergarten around that time. And then I went to Detroit Merit probably from, I want to say first grade, and then I went to a school called Duke Ellington from about second grade to 5th grade. And I met a lot of friends there that I still keep in contact with to this day. But yeah, as a little kid, I was cool. But like as I started, getting older, like 3rd, 4th grade, I didn't know like like I was silly, but I didn't know when to be silly. Like I was trying to be
Yeah.
silly all the time, and then I was big into WWE. I was always trying to, me and my friends were always trying to trade wrestlers during like recess or during class time. We'd have our action figures out in our book bag, or like we'd just be trying to wrestle during class, and I'd just be getting in so much trouble. And you know, like one teacher told me, like, you gotta understand that there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
So like for me, I mean, I knew I wouldn't say I was the smartest kid as I got older, but I knew like my hard work, if I just stopped playing games and stopped being silly all the time, I knew I could be something, because I knew at an early age, like whatever I did, I wanted it to benefit somebody else, meaning that like, okay, I could go work a job and make all the money that I desire or even more. But like, I want to do that, but I want to do it being a servant to somebody. Like I want to help somebody. I want whatever I do in life to empower or impact or enlighten somebody. So like, even while I was clowning, I probably didn't stop clowning it started in second grade. I probably didn't stop clowning realistically until my 11th or 12th grade year in high school. But I was doing enough to get by. So it was like, at that time, my mindset was like, okay, I'm just doing just enough to get the decent grade. So it wasn't until, you know, my mama got sick when I was in 10th grade. She wrestled with pancreatic cancer for like 2 years. She passed my senior year in October. And, you know, it wasn't until she got sick and then I saw what she had to deal with that I really locked in. It was like, hey, man, you know you got the gift of gab. You can do all these different things, but you got to be serious and you got to work hard. It's like I said, me personally, like I ain't going to say I'm dumb, but like I wasn't the smartest kid in my class. Like, but I knew like I was going to work hard and I knew I was going to be consistent. Yeah. So like at first I was like a goofball, and it's crazy now. Like I was even saying something on Facebook. I'm like, I know God is real, because the fact that I'm a teacher is crazy. I never wanted to be a teacher. I didn't go to school to be a teacher. Like, and my people I went to school with and people that know me on a personal level, like, bro, that is facts. And they was laughing. Like, bro, because you were so silly. And I'm still silly, but like I just know like when like it's a time and a place for everything. But like they like, yeah, bro, because you used to be clowning all the time, like up in front of people trying to be like Cat Williams or Kevin Hart. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it was for me, for sure.
That's what's up. So from your senior year up into your coming into adulthood, what have you seen change within yourself though through that time period, like strongly? Like, do you feel like your surroundings mainly changed, your perspectives on things changed? Like, how were you?
Definitely perspectives. Like me, I wouldn't say I'm an eyeball, but at the same time I would, because like at an early age, like I picked up on a lot of things. Like a lot of my friends tell me I have an old soul, so it's like
same here.
Like I guess that's because like I was always around older people. Like my parents always surrounded me around. I got the knowledge from them. And then like the stuff that they didn't know, they would surround me around different church members or put me in extracurricular activities. So I would pick up on stuff and I would be attracted to like stuff like that older people like. So it's like whether it was old school music, like a way of life, different things like that. So I definitely would say perspectives for sure, because like me as a child, I was just talking to my homeboys about this like a few days ago. Like when you grew up a certain way, like I come from structure. I come from a 2-parent home, and I'm not saying like just because you come from structure in a 2-parent home that you're not gonna like have points in your life where you go through stuff or you don't have the answers or you can't do nothing wrong. But like the thing I always appreciate about my parents, like they were honest with me. You know, they kept it real with me, and they didn't shun me. Like they didn't show me things all at once, but they let me live. They let us live a little bit, but they also gave us game. So it was like, perspective wise, it's just like you grow up and you think everybody comes from a 2-parent home because that's what you're seeing. But then when you get around cousins, you get around friends, you get to know them a little more, you realize, oh, my cousin didn't grow up without his father. or my female friend, she doesn't have a relationship with her dad, or she's not as close. She lives in the house with her mother, but they barely talk.
Right.
And it's weird to you because you come from structure and you never experienced that, or you don't know what that's like. So it's like, well, man, why they living like this? Like, everybody should be, but it's not until you realize, like, that's not how everybody lives. So I guess one perspective is not to assume that everybody lives the quote unquote standard life. Like, everybody comes from different walks of life. And even though I've learned that, even though I have a way that I live, like, I don't want to be around drama. I don't want to be around negative people or negative energy. There may be, ways that I live my life that other people may not agree. Like, for instance, a big thing I'm on is like, a lot of people say stuff like, man, he took those 20 years to the chin. But my thing is, he didn't have no choice. But I don't come from that world. Yeah. I've never had to steal to make sure my brothers and sisters can eat. I never had to, rob somebody or gun somebody down for the things that I want. Either my parents got them or I worked for them because that was taught. But when you look around, everybody's parents aren't teaching their kids that, or it's been a cycle. So your mom, at your age, she grew up, all she knew was stealing and killing and robbing and all of that. So she passed it on to you because she never took the time to seek therapy or talk about her feelings, because you have a lot of generations before us that it's like, what goes on in this house stays in this house. And I don't agree with that to a certain degree, because you got people and kids and family members committing suicide because they feel like they can't open up to their parents, because it's like, hey, you should get over that. Because all these different walks and ways of life. So I've learned to respect different perspectives, or like, I can agree to disagree with, this mindset of, I'm loyal if I do the time that you're supposed to do. Like, you go rob somebody, but I got to do the time, and I'm a real one because I go do that. I don't agree with that, but I have to take into consideration that that's how some people grew up. That's all they know. Yeah. Even though in my eyes and honestly reality, that's wrong. I respectfully agree to disagree, or I hear where you're coming from, but I'm not gonna take on that position. So right. I would definitely say perspective, like surroundings. I've always been around good people. I feel like I've never, like, I could see something from a movie and be like, I don't want to end up like that. Like, yeah. Or like, I could see how somebody moving is like, even though I'm clowning and I'm goofing around, like, I'm not on that. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, what you're doing. Like, I never been a guy that's, been around people that want to gang bang and, and there's no knock on them, but never been around guys that like super rowdy.
That had a really strong influence.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I've never been around people that are like, temper is out of control and like super rowdy or whatever. But like, no, I've grown to, like, when I went to college, I met a whole bunch of people that kind of helped me with my perspective and taught me different things. And I've always been the type of person, and I've learned this from my parents, like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you got to go to another room because you're not really growing from there. You know what I mean? So I never really been around like troublemakers, and if I feel like you was a like cancer to my situation, then I would remove myself, or like I would communicate to you at first, like, hey man, this could, put a fork in our friendship or our relationship. So, I just ask that you wouldn't do that, or you would respect this point of my life. But if they don't, then just got to get rid of them. But surroundings, I've never been around people that's like on no crazy stuff. But I think the separation comes is like what a friend of mine named Cleavon tells me, and I tell people this all the time. It's like, he told me, we was having a conversation about friends and like the different forms of relationships. He was like, you have to define and align your different relationships. And what he means when he says that is, like, you have to understand, like, it's some girls that you can hang out with on a Saturday night. It's some people that, hey, I'm studying. And those are the people. You know what I mean? But you wouldn't mix the two because they value different things. So it's like, that's a big thing that helped me, is like, and it also helps me maintain all the different forms of relationships that I have with people. Like, there's dudes that I'm going to call to play pickup basketball with. Now those same dudes I wouldn't call to go study because they don't really value education like that. And it doesn't make them less than, but it's like you have to understand there are different forms of relationships. And if you don't, for sure, and if you don't define them, you'll be disappointed or feeling like, well, why Nae ain't come to our brunch? Well, maybe Nae is doing something on that day to where it keeps her from that, or she values something else at this point in her life. So when you understand that and you define and align your different friendships or bonds,
and it also shows that you pay attention to your friends, because if you be around them, not only are you sharing your energy and your time with them, but you also want to value that energy and time and make sure it's being used in their best benefit too, not just yours. So yeah, that's understandable. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about teaching. So how did you get into teaching, and can you elaborate more on that?
So it was crazy, and I feel like I gotta share this because somebody may be going through the same situation, or maybe feeling like they're running out of time. So I graduated from Oakwood University at HBCU in Huntsville, Alabama. Shout out Oakwood. Had to shout y'all out one time. Great memories there. Great 4 years. Miss it for sure. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I had just graduated. I came back, and when you graduate, whether it's college, your master's degree, or high school, whatever, your people, they bless you on Cash App, Zelle, they give you money in hand. Mm-hmm. And so besides the money that I had already saved up, I had a refund check. I had 2 refund checks.
Ooh-wee.
I had a $250 refund check, and then I had a $1,125 refund check. I remember it like it was yesterday. Oh, and it came at the right time too, because I was low on funds like a week before graduation. So shout out to God 3 times.
Amen.
But I had that, and then I was living off that and my graduation money that I got from people, and plus my sports job, because I also work as a sports performance coach. That's what I went to school for. I graduated with a degree in fitness and wellness. So this is when my first adult real world problem kicked in. This is what I think for sure. So I had a Ford at the time, a Ford Focus. I was driving somewhere. I think I was going to run an errand, and I heard like a noise under my car. And so I'm thinking I like ran over something or something like that. So it kept making a sound. It was like feeling like my car was like feeling weird or something. Yeah. So I pulled over, and then I saw this piece scraping at the bottom of my car. And so I'm like, dang. And at the time, I didn't have enough money, because like at that point, my money had lasted me for like 3 months. So that money is dried up now. So I'm looking at this piece on the car, and I'm like, I know it's going to be more than like $200. So this guy for like months and months and months had been hitting me up like, yo, man, I want you to come work for me. He has his own business. They teach financial literacy in different schools. So I'm like, I really didn't go to school for that. I'm not really, I know about money, but I'm not like you are with it. And he was like, man, well, the opportunity is still on the table if you ever want to come through. So I'm like, all right, cool. So then it's like a lot of times, you forced to do something. Like when you don't have no other option, you like, man, I got to do this. Yeah. So I'm like, I hit him up like, hey, man, is that job still available? And now this was like towards the end of October. He's like, yeah, man. And, got the fingerprint set up, was on the different Zoom meetings, and he was telling me what to expect. Yeah. And now going in, I'm just reading what's on the PowerPoints to the kids. And low-key, I'm still nervous because, like I told you before, I didn't go to school to be a teacher. And even if I never, ever went to college, I was not trying to be a teacher. One, because I saw what teachers had to deal with from people like me. Now, I wasn't a guy that was cussing out students, fighting teachers and stuff like that. But I was a character. Like I said, I was always trying to be the class clown and stuff like that. So it's like, I'm not trying to endure that. You feel me? You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to be on the receiving end of what I used to do. You get what I'm saying? So
it's like a little return circle.
Yeah, like I'm like, man, I ain't trying to deal with that, man. And then so I'm coming in like for weeks probably. And then we had a meeting. He's like, man, just be you. And I remember I wanted to quit. Like my second day, I'm like, the principal not here on time. They told me to look for this lady. She not here. I keep asking the front desk where she is. And then it was like each class period you have 45 to 50 minutes. And so I'm coming in November. School starts in September, but I'm coming in like in November, and I'm like, man, I'm almost like, man, I'm on the phone with him like, man, I don't want to do this no more. You know, I just can't see myself doing it. And so he's like, all right, I tell you what, I'll give you until December, and if it still don't work, you can leave. I'm like, all right, bet. So we started having different meetings on Zoom. He like, man, just be yourself. Tell some of your stories with money that you endure with college. And even, you know, you don't have to spend the whole time talking about finances. And when he told me that, I'm like, bet. Because I'm confident that, you know, I can convey and command the room. So what I would do is, like, on a Sunday, I would go and do my lesson planning. Like, okay, we're going to start with this. In the middle, we're going to do this. And at the end, we're going to do this. So I was, you know, just on the internet one day, and I was doing an affirmation. Like, I was trying to come up with something that we could do every morning. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to come up with a daily affirmation. And I remember typing it out. And it reads, there's no one better to be than myself. And that's how we started off. And I can't remember it off the top of my head. I thought I could, but oh yeah, I remember now. There's no one better to be than myself. I am enough. My mistakes help me learn and grow. I can get through anything. I believe in my goals and dreams. I can do anything I put my mind to, because every day is a time to be great. And I made that and I typed that up on Google Docs. And we read that at the beginning and ending of every class. And every time we would finish reading it or saying it aloud, I would remind the students, like, we read this because this helps us understand that no matter what we're dealing with, no matter what we go through, we can get better. We can improve in the different areas of our lives. We can achieve our goals if we put our mind to it. And every day is another time, another day to be great. Each and every day you have breath in your body, it's another time, another opportunity to be great. And so once he told me, like, hey man, you don't have to spend all the 50 minutes to talk about financial literacy. Like, it opened it up for me, and it made me more comfortable. And I built a lot of relationships that I still have with my students to this day. And I just saw the growth, because parents would come to me like during parent-teacher conference or events, like, I'm so happy, like, you're a young guy there, because I was the youngest teacher there. And the kids connected with me. I would play basketball with the guys during recess or during their lunch period. They would come to me about stuff they were dealing with at home, just off seeing what I went through, or like seeing how down to earth I was. And I let them know, like, hey man, I don't want to be the teacher that's always yelling, you know, angry, but I can be that guy if that's what y'all want. But the only way y'all gonna get that side of me if y'all don't listen, or if I had to keep reminding y'all. I want to be the teacher that comes in, we have fun, we have different pizza parties, and we did that. And the result of that was building relationships with the kids. And now, this past school year, I went over to a school called DSLA. Now, that story that I just told you, I was in Redford Service Learning Academy. I started off from November of 2022 November of 2021, until June of 2022. And then this past school year, I came in, I got a full start of September of 2022 to June of 2023. And I was over this past school year at Detroit Service Learning Academy. And then again, I built relationships with people, and I'm guessing you must have went there.
Yeah, I did. It's wild, because I went there for, I believe, 8th grade, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's wild.
Yeah.
Small world.
Man, for real though. And so, like, for me, I built relationships with the teachers and you know, people there. And again, with the kids, like, the kids would come to me about their problems. You know, I would play basketball with them, just talk to them, empower them. And we did the affirmation. And I remember a parent, she came to me, she was like, man, man, Mr. Jones, you're such a cool guy. Like, you know, I see how you greet people in the morning, because I would greet, you know, the parents and the kids when they would drop their kids off. And she was like, you know, my daughter, she's always coming home telling us new things she learned about financial literacy and about money. And, you know, they're citing the daily affirmation. And I just love how, you know, I hear about how you empower them and you just care about them. You know, we need more people like you. So that does my heart good, because that's what I do it for. I could care less about if somebody mentioned my name. I could care less about if I get an award or a street named after me. Like, all of those things are dope. And, you know, I would be happy if that happened, but not as happy as seeing somebody take some advice that I give them and they apply it to their lives and it does them good and it elevates them. Because, you know, you could give somebody $100 and say, stay out of school. I could go to Foot Locker and, you know, buy the whole mall. But I think the time you spend with somebody and the knowledge you give them and to see them apply it, I think that's what I do it for. And that's more precious than, you know, money, shoes, clothes, or anything. So yeah, that's how that happened. And, you know, I always appreciate my time at RSLA and DSLA, and I always appreciate the kids, the parents, and my former co-workers for sure. So shout out to y'all.
That's dope. That sounds like a really good transition from when you, like, from the beginning all the way up until now. You've seen that from the sounds of it, you've grown a lot from just trying to deal with it, go into it, handle it. And then what have you been learning from your own students? Like, what have your students taught you from the beginning up until now?
Well, I kind of already knew this, but it's just a reminder that, you know, a lot of these kids, they come from broken homes, and a lot of kids are raising kids. And, you know, I will see parents that's my age, I'm 24, or younger. Like, you have that's 18 years old bringing kids in the first, second grade.
Yeah.
You know, you got 20-year-olds, you know, and it's not to say that you don't know things at 20, but you don't know as much as you need to know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like you learning stuff on the fly, which is, it's not always a bad thing, but, you know, the kids suffer when you don't really take your life as a parent seriously. You know what I mean? So it just that a lot of times you have to realize that a lot of these kids are going through a lot of things. Now, that's not an excuse to not do your job as a teacher or to baby them in a sense, but it's a reminder that, you know, you got to love on these kids, because they may not be getting the love that they seek from the people that raise them, whether it's a grandmother, a mother, a father, a mother and a father. So I guess my thing is, not even just with my students, but people I come across in general, because you just never know what somebody's dealing with.
Yeah.
So my biggest,
be a positive insight too.
For sure. And I think Isaiah Thomas said it best. I want all of my experiences with people to be good. You know what I'm saying? Any chance I have to pour into somebody or be a positive light or be a reminder that there are good people in the world, you know, because there's so much negativity going on. So it makes you wonder, like, are good people still left? You know, I want my life to be an example. I want my, you know, gestures towards people to be an example that there's still good people in the world and there are people that have your best interest.
Yeah, that's dope. And that's very, very true. Because you don't know what kid could be coming from a very verbally abusive home, physically abusive home, and their school is their only outlet to be a kid or to have friends, and to be able to have someone that gives them that positive insight and be a motivator to them and give them motivation. Like, you can come out of it, you know, you are somebody.
Right.
And then with your affirmation, that helps out a lot with a lot of kids too, because they not only just saying it, but the ones that really believe in it, that's how you know that message is really hitting them too. Sure. Especially as a, you know, an educator, person that's really teaching the younger community too.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah. So, like, what age groups do you like teaching? Are you with a variety of age groups, or are you with like one set of age groups?
So when I was at RSLA and DSLA, it was a variety. Some days I go in and teach kindergartners. Some days I go and teach second graders, third graders, fourth graders. But me And there's no knock to the second grade. There's no knock to the second grade teachers if you teach. I feel like for me, I learned this year that I can only do, or that I would prefer to do, because I don't want to limit myself. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you got to know yourself too.
Yeah.
I feel like me, I can only do 4th grade and above. Like, I feel like, because me, and people may be like, dang, bro, for real. And like, I was telling my girl this the other day, like, I feel like for me, if I continue to do younger ages, like 3rd grade and lower, I feel like for me, I feel like I wouldn't want to have kids no more. Because like, it's just like, bro, like the amount of stuff like kids need, or like how, like, I'm not even gonna necessarily say needy, mm-hmm. but like how much they whine and stuff. Because I'm thinking like, man, when I was in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, I wasn't whining like that, but it's a different you know, time, different generation. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
They build different.
Yeah, so it's like, for me, you know, I would rather do, you know, 5th grade and above. But I did a variety to answer your question, variety of grades.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope. Hey guys, we wanted to take a quick little break just to do a quick shout out to TC's Art Gallery. That is T as in Tom, C as in Cat, S as in Sam Art Gallery. They do custom art, custom jewelry, and custom photos. They also help with your logo, updating your website, or if you need a website, and they help with social media advertisement or social media management. If you don't feel like dealing with your social media at all, contact TC's Art Gallery today. That is T as in Tom, C as in Cat, S as in Sam Art Gallery. And also check out their website at tcsartgalleryllc.square.site. All right, back to the show. So continuing on into more of your careers, besides teaching, what else do you do?
So I'm a sports performance coach. Mm-hmm. As I was saying earlier, I went to school to be a coach or an athletic trainer, more so coach, because when I was in 8th grade, I had got injured. Like, one of the kids I grew up with, he played football, fire football player. Mm-hmm. And so me, I'm more of a basketball guy. I love basketball. Mm-hmm. So we were hanging out for the weekend, me, him, and another guy we grew up with. And we were playing football outside. It was like the 4th of July weekend, or like fireworks or something. And so we had went like far out to this place, like that was a little closer to where he stayed. And we were playing football. So me, all I know, when you get the football, just run to the end zone. I don't really know the ins and outs of it like I do with basketball. Mm-hmm. So I was just cooking, I was killing. And he guarded me this time. And so he tackled me. And we ran into this older lady. Oh. And like, she was sitting in her lawn chair and we fell into her. She popped over and I'm like, oh shoot, you okay? And she was more concerned about me. And I'm like, dang, she's more concerned about me. She's an older lady.
Right.
But then the second time, I scored the touchdown, but he tackled me and then he fell on my knee.
Oh no.
So I'm like, dang. And the dude, it was like way bigger than me.
Oh man.
At the time. So it's like, you can imagine like how that was. And then my knee, I was looking at it and it was like swole up like a beach ball. Like,
you
sprained
it? Was crazy.
Yeah, it was like a great sprain.
Oh
and
man.
I did rehab and that made me want to do training because I saw how the people took care of me and everything, and I saw how, you know, the love they showed me and how they got me back to, you know, my knee being good. And so I had wanted to be an athletic trainer from 8th grade to 10th grade. But then I'm like, I was watching some basketball documentaries and I'm like, I love how this coach in particular, Larry Brown, he was the coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. Mm-hmm. And this was around the time that Allen Iverson was playing. And Allen Iverson is, besides MJ, one of my favorite players, if not my favorite player of all time. Mm-hmm. And I just saw how him and Allen Iverson, when they built their relationship, because they had beef at first, and when they turned their relationship around, I just saw how Allen Iverson went from a good player to a very great player. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, as a coach, you can not only be a coach, but you can be a mentor. And, you know, that's something I'm big on. So I'm a sports performance coach. Shout out my guy, Lou. His business called Made Student Athletics, man, that's my guy. He like a big brother to me. He always giving me game. And, you know, that's my guy, man. I got a lot of love for him. So shout out to you, Lou. And I also, in that same building where the facility is, I'm a mentor. I help out with my mentor, Tucson Knight. Shout out to you, man. Appreciate you. Another big brother, uncle. And I've been knowing him for a while, since I was little. And he has his own male mentoring program. We help out kids from the ages of 13 to 18. We located in Grosse Pointe. I know I sound like I'm trying to get some people in. So if you got some,
hey, you got to shout out who you got to shout out, right?
Yeah. So if you got some young, you know, males that need guidance, man, bring them to Caught Up, man. That's our male mentoring program. That's the name of it, Caught Up. So those are different things I do. And I'm a youth leader at my church. Shout out Burns Seventh-day Adventist Church. Got to shout y'all out for the one time. You know, one of the greatest churches this side of Detroit.
That's what's up.
You know, I serve as a youth leader there. And yeah, that's about it. And our podcast. Shout out to Let's Talk About It podcast, man.
Hey.
I got to get at a follow on Instagram and TikTok and all that good stuff.
For sure. I'll make sure to we'll definitely put all his information down below in the description and in the bio. So definitely take a tune into that. And in the beginning, not to even cut you off for you.
For sure, yeah.
Okay. So in the beginning, I had you pull 2 topics and you got advice and accomplishments. So what advice would you give based off of your accomplishments that you went through to, well, as far as like what you went through to get that accomplishment? How would you advise with that?
Man, I'm glad you asked me that. One, I'm going to start off with college.
Okay.
I've told this story to some of my mentees. So again, I say this because it's just like, man, it's facts. But growing up, I wasn't the smartest kid, but I knew that I wanted to do something with my life. So fast forward to college. My first year, I did okay. Like, I had decent grades. But I was going to class every day. I was up at a decent hour. I was waking up 5, 6 in the morning. I would eat my breakfast. I would go to my class. I was never late for any of my classes. I would sit in the front of all of my classes because I learned in this program called Midnight Golf that I was in my 12th grade year that you always sit in the front of your classes because your teacher will notice you. It's easy access for you to ask them questions, talk to them after class, and
get the best of the message.
Yeah, and like a mentor of mine, David Gamlin, said, you know, those are the money seats. That's where you make your money at. And, you know, so my freshman year, I did okay. I failed a class my second semester because I procrastinated on getting my same instructor that I had for A&P. I was taking an A&P Part 2 my second semester from freshman year. So I had a different teacher. He wasn't a bad teacher. I just wasn't doing my part, and I would have preferred to have my teacher, Dr. Doolin. Shout out to Dr. Doolin. He's probably one of the greatest teachers of all time. Argue with your mom. But yeah, so I had failed that class. And then going into my sophomore year, I did decent again. I didn't fail any classes, but I did decent. But the summer of my sophomore year, I was telling myself, like, man, I'm getting a 3.5 or above. And I was just so locked in because I had realized that I was going to class, I was turning in assignments, but I wasn't really taking the time to create good study habits. Like, I was going to the library, printing out assignments. I was doing all of that, but I wasn't taking, you know, priority time to study. Like, I was so ready to do other things and all of that. So I was like, man, this year I'm grinding harder than I ever did before. And the result of that, my first semester of my junior year, I got a 3.8. And then my second semester, I got a 3.5.
Let's get it.
And one, I always got to credit God to anything that I do because without him, you know, I'm nothing. So
without a doubt,
you know, God kept me through that. And, you know, the college I went to was actually a Christian college. So I think the advice that I would give is one, don't let like your shortcomings, stop you. Let it fuel you, or take a step back and say, hey, what did I do wrong? Or like, how can I learn from these moments where I didn't have the answers? Like, and I'm a big, advocate, and I'm a firm believer on understanding that you don't do this thing called life alone. Like, you have mentors, you have parents, you have friends that get you through. You have, more importantly, God that sees you through and, sets up these different relationships with your parents and, mentors and friends that help you elevate and excel. And so me, I'm big on, you never stop learning until you stop learning. When you, decide that, hey, I have enough knowledge, I don't need to learn anymore. That's probably the worst thing that you can do, in my opinion. I'm always, you see, I mentioned my mentor, David Gamlin, Lou, Mr. Knight, all these different people. I'm always in their ear about stuff like, hey, man, how can I do this? Or like, how did you handle this when you handle this problem that I'm going through? Because I'm always picking somebody's brain, and I want to be able to learn, because I know I don't always have the answers. And it's always good sometimes to get a second opinion. And so, one, I would say, don't let your shortcomings stop you from getting to where you want to be. And now this story is crucial. So, as I told you guys before, I failed my freshman year, my second semester, I failed A&P Part 2. So my junior year, I had to take A&P Part 2 again because I failed it. And so all my grades were fire. And now this is right before the pandemic is happening. Now my A&P grade was trash. I was studying, I was reading, but I was not getting the information. Right. And it wasn't until the pandemic, because shout out to the pandemic, because it definitely helped me. Because if it were not for that pandemic, I would have not passed A&P. And if it were not, firstly, for God, I wouldn't have passed that class. Yeah. So long story short, my grade was like an F before the pandemic. And in March, we had to go home. We got the email that we had to go home. And then my grades started improving because we were doing online tests and I was, more locked in. And so I got my grade up to a B+. I finished with a B+, so I passed that.
Hey, that's what's up.
Now, here's where some people may say I was playing with life, but honestly, I was not playing. My senior year, I'm about to graduate, so I'm hype, I'm ready. I'm like, man, this is my senior year, man. And so my first semester, I failed a counseling class, not because I wasn't doing the work, not because I wasn't studying, but because for some reason, I could not find my assignments, like where they were located in the Dropbox. I'm like, bro, I cannot find these assignments. So I'm getting partial grades on it. And so I go to my advisor. Now, this is where relationships are key. This is another thing that, relationships matter, and the right relationships matter.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? A lot of people, they got relationships with folks that's not really serving them no purpose. And I don't want to say that to say like you only are friends with people so you can benefit from somebody, but this is where relationships come into play. So my advisor, shout out to my advisor, Dr. Young, love you, man, appreciate you for all that you've done for me. I actually met him when I went to the college that I graduated from. I went on a tour, and I told him, I wanted to be a coach and a trainer. He was like, man, we got just the thing for you. If you get a degree in fitness and wellness, not only will you be able to become a coach, you have a wide variety of different positions that you can take. And so fast forward to my senior year, I let him know like, hey man, and I was always going to him about stuff. I'm like, hey man, I failed this class because I couldn't find out where the assignments were. He was like, man, you're going to still graduate. We're going to make sure you take a class that is worth those same credits. And glory be to God, man, I graduated, that same semester. I didn't have to, do another year. And me, the thing about me was like, if I was willing to do another year, like I prayed to God and I was like, God, if you don't see fit for me to graduate this year because I failed this class, I'm okay with that. It might hurt my pride a little bit because, I was so locked in. Yeah. I'm coming off a semester with a 3.6 and all of that. But, if that's your will, then I'm with it. And sure enough, he made a way that I walked the stage May 5th of 2021. So again,
Hey.
big ups to God 3 times.
Most definitely.
And out of that, I would say never give up, because I could have been like, yo, man, I failed this class. This is my senior year. But I went out on faith and said, God, hey, you see what's going on. I'm going to go to my advisor and I'm going to do all that I can on my end, because I know that you're going to do your part.
Right.
So one, never give up, because if I would have given up and if I would have said, oh man, I'm just going to fail anyway, I probably ain't going to graduate, I probably wouldn't have graduated. So never give up, because it's in those dark times that you become your best self. I heard Eric Thomas say that my greatest moments didn't come from my greatest moments. It was times where, I was in the dark, or where I had to be challenged, that I became a better man, or you become a better woman. So one, never give up, because the day that you give up is the day that you may see your breakthrough.
Exactly.
So that's one thing I would say. And the tragedy for me was losing my mom. That's probably the biggest, thing that I had to deal with up until this point. And from seeing my mom wrestle with cancer, seeing her lose weight, lose hair and all that different stuff, and seeing all the stuff that she dealt with, it just motivated me to say, use these moments as fuel. You may be in a place right now where, you lost your job, you lost a loved one, you lost a spouse, you're going through some things.
Yeah.
But let that moment teach you something. And looking at my mom and seeing how sick she was, she never stopped waking up early in the morning. She never stopped doing her part. And that let me know that no matter what you're going through, always have a by any means necessary mindset. No matter what you're going through, don't be conditional in your grind. A lot of people like, oh, I'm gonna grind when I get this. Or like, if everything go right, then I'm gonna do my part. But we live in a world where we know all too well, you plan for stuff and then stuff come hit you with a curveball. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And we're gonna always have those moments, but it's what you do in those moments that make you who you are.
Exactly.
And so one, I would say never give up. And two, don't be conditional in your grind.
Right.
No matter the circumstances, put in the work regardless.
I feel that. And also in the beginning of first of all, that was some dope facts right there. Okay, we gotta write that down. Okay, but also in the beginning, you also chose a number between 1 through 10, and you chose number 6. And number 6 is called On the Spot Game. Okay, and with that game, you pretty much, the game is whatever comes to mind, like what comes to, like literally the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word, and then I'll tell you a word.
Bet.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, so what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word dreamer?
Dreamer? Visionary, for sure. Visionary.
Okay.
Because, like, dreamers, that's the first stage of you being a visionary in my eyes. Because you got to dream. And then when you dream, you have somebody, or after that step, what it is that you want to do. Like, I had this dream. I've always dreamed of this. Now, how can I make this dream become a goal? And how can I make this goal become a reality?
I feel that.
Sure.
That's lit. Okay, let's do one more. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word? I'm going to think about this one, because I really want to give you a good one. Reality.
Reality? Reality.
You want another one?
No, I'm just thinking, like, I guess I would say life.
I was gonna say you.
Life, because we live in a real life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think, I definitely would choose life, because your life is a reality.
Yeah, because
Sure.
there's fun. Yeah, I mean, I know that was a very obvious,
no.
obvious word, but I couldn't think of a good one off the spot. But next time I'll make sure to have something written down and throw out for the game with whoever choose. But yeah, okay, good.
Sure,
Life for
sure.
But before we close out, I want to say thank you for coming on to the podcast. I truly appreciate you taking the time out to be here today. Is there anything you would love to say?
There's a quote that I've been big on, and one, I want to say thank you for thinking of me to even be on your great platform.
I appreciate it. No problem.
Y'all continue to tune in to the Elegance of Nae podcast for sure, because she not only has, dope guests, but she's dope herself, and she has a dope platform. But me, before I would go, I would like to say, a quote that's stuck with me. It's probably my favorite quote. I recently heard The Rock say it, and the quote says, "One day or day one." And that quote means, are you either going to make today your day one or whatever you want to accomplish? Or are you going to always procrastinate your purpose and say, one day I'll do this, or one day this will happen, or one day I'll stop doing this? So, yeah, just, food for thought for y'all, man.
That's dope. I love it. And definitely make sure to tune in to Mr. Leon's podcast. Shout it out one more time.
The Let's Talk About It podcast, y'all.
Yes, make sure to tune in. We'll make sure to put all of his information down below in the description and in the bio. Are we doing a part 2?
For sure. Gotta do a part 2.
We gotta do the part 2. All right. And our part 2 will be on Patreon and our lovely subscribers. So make sure you become a subscriber on this platform and plenty others, along with our Patreon, to be able to get that part 2. Right?
All right. For sure. Gotta be there. There.
Oh, for sure. Until next time, see ya. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Elegance of Nae podcast. I'm your host, Nae, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and also follow us at the Elegance of Nae podcast. Until next time, see ya.